Hey, today I'm coming to you from my home, super casual. We're just going to sit and have a chat. We're going to be talking today about our content planning process and how we show up consistently on social media to grow our audience, build relationships, and convert those people into leads and then eventually into clients. To be honest with you, after doing social media for many years, the hardest part is showing up consistently. And the algorithms on these social platforms and the way that you win through these is to show up consistently over time. And the way humans work is they need to see you often. It takes anywhere from 8 to 11 touch points on average nowadays in this overstimulated world for someone to remember you, for someone to hear your message clearly. They need to see the repetitiveness of what it is you're doing on these platforms in order for them to build trust in you and to see you as an authority in the business that you're doing and what you do, for them to choose to want to do business with you. So with a little intentional planning and creating content consistently, you're going to be able to get into front of the right people and be able to grow your business as well. So here is our process for content planning. The first part of content planning is going to be finding content. The way that we do this is we define 3 pillars or 3 main topics that we talk about so that we have a consistency in the topics that we're coming onto social media to discuss. So for example, if you're an insurance agent, broker, agency, what have you, some of the main pillars that you might want to talk about are going to be insurance, which is going to look like coverages, policies, things that have to do with the insurance specific industry, insurance specific products for your clients. The next pillar might look like community or things that are happening in your local area. So that's going to be another pillar that you can use to really create content around that is not specific to insurance, but separating you, also giving you that local agency authority within your community. And another pillar could be your agency, talking about the people that are working within your agency, the things that your agency is doing, some wins that you're having, even sometimes some struggles that you're having, because people want to know that you're a human and that you're relatable. And so you can be talking about what you're doing in your business day to day and just showing them a little behind the scenes. So that's an example of 3 pillars that you can have that's helping you define the type of content that you want to talk about so that you can then have that as your foundation and base, so that when you're finding content, you can look for content that you want to create and some ideas under the insurance pillar, under the community pillar, and then under your agency pillar. Once you have these 3 pillars defined, I do sometimes like to add a 4th pillar, but that's going to be more of a 10% infusion of content that you can bring in. And that could be something personal to you. So for example, our family has taken on a hobby of going RVing and camping and off-roading in the last 3 to 5 years. And it's something that I do share content about. And I feel like it just gives people a little bit of an insight into who I am, who my family is, what we like to do. And I've had so many conversations with people and have met so many amazing people online that also have these hobbies. And it just makes us relatable. And I think people find it a little bit interesting about us. So we infuse about 10% of that into our content, which I have seen other people talk about the type of coffee they drink or where they go get coffee, or the fact that they love a certain type of coffee, or that their whole office is just like a huge coffee connoisseur team. Or maybe it's some other hobby you have, and maybe you're really into fitness. I've seen agents talk about the fitness journey that they're on, or showing some content about them going to the gym and working out before they go into their agency. Maybe it's you're a mom, and so you show a little bit about what mom life is like when you're working from home or from the office and just being a working mom. These are all types of ways that you can infuse a little bit about yourself, or a little bit about something that's personalized or individualized, that's different about you and really makes you stand out and relatable as just another human being, so that people can relate to you and they feel like they know, like, and trust you. The next part of finding content, once you know your pillars, is going to be really doing some searching. You can use Google suggested search, YouTube suggested search, Pinterest suggested search, those type of things, even Amazon on books and reviews and just different things that you can do some research on. Maybe you're going onto YouTube and you're just typing something about insurance, and you can see in the suggested section what things people are searching for, or what YouTube or Google is suggesting, meaning that most people are searching for these things. And that can really help you look at what type of content you can create based on your pillars. Also, you can look at YouTube and see what type of videos of those that are doing something that you want to be doing, like maybe creating YouTube videos about insurance. what type of videos have gotten the most views of theirs, what have been the titles, what kind of content are they talking about. Also looking at those YouTube videos that are doing really well and looking at the comments. Are people asking certain questions? Can you create a piece of content off of that? So that's the first piece of the content creating process, where you really want to know your pillars and then go and do some research and finding some ideas that you can work on and finding some of that content that you can create yourself. The next part of the content process is really the planning process. So once we've got a list of ideas of some topics and things that we want to talk about, or have done some of that research so we can see what content is performing well, what people are engaging with the most, what could we really recreate in our own voice and in our own way, then you're going to start really planning this out. So one of my favorite ways to do this is to think we've got 52 weeks in a year, and every single week I like to use a different topic that I really dive deep into. And then the next week we go into something else. But being able to break that down week by week really allows me to create content within that week and use that as my planning process. So we have 52 weeks in a year, and here's how I start. I look at 12 months and I try to come up with at least 12 big kind of macro topics that I can talk about. And then I will break those 12 topics down into subtopics, which will equal my 52 week. And once I have those, after doing the research and seeing what people are engaging with the most and really thinking about those content pillars, I'll be able to have 52 weeks of topics for me to start creating content for. So really what I'm doing here is I'm theming each week of the year into a different topic, where then I can create my longer form content, which we're going to talk about in a second, and then break that down and repurpose that content into many different pieces that we can then distribute across all different platforms. It's so much easier to stay on one topic per week, kind of theming that week around your topic that you want to talk about, and then breaking those pieces down and deep diving deeper into that. Because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to show up and create all kinds of random content throughout a week, and it's not going to seem cohesive into what you talked about in the last post or in the last video that you did. And so it really helps the people following your journey, or that are liking your pages, or that become subscribers, to really get engaged in the topic that you're talking about for that week. So an example of one of the topics that we might talk about in one of the 52 weeks out of the year, I just did a post on this on Facebook and just wanted to see the engagement and the reaction. And I just posted, what happens to agents when they hear the term full coverage? And I had a little puking emoji, and it got so much engagement, a lot of questions of what that means. Why is full coverage not a thing? How does that get defined? What people should really be asking for? So it's a great example to talk about how your clients or the community or the world might look at insurance coverages and how it really needs to be done. But we're talking in their language and really speaking to them, so that when people came across this post and saw full coverage, they were like, wait, I've used that term before. This is what I think it means. And I'm using that space to educate them and really dive into it. So there was a ton of engagement on that. And that's just a really great example of a title that you can use to hook somebody in, have a conversation, educate them. And that's good content in your insurance pillar for you to build that authority and really talking about your industry and your topic that sometimes we feel like is a little bit boring or people don't want to talk about. But how can you give a little twist to it, make yourself different, but still be able to get your message across? So when you're planning your content, you're going to pick that title for that week, have that week themed, and then we're going to plan what kind of content we're going to do. There are two types of content. There's going to be long form content and there's going to be short form content. Long-term content is going to look like things like articles, blogs, long written pieces of content, and then also long video. So a 10 to 45 minute YouTube video, maybe it's a Zoom workshop, maybe it's a live that you're doing that's a little bit longer. Long form written is going to look like I said, emails, blogs, articles, things that are a lot longer when it comes to the text. When it comes to short form written or video content, that's going to look like things like a reel, a short, a TikTok, a story when it comes to video, or that's going to look like your post captions, your descriptions, text messaging content that you might have if you're doing a text campaign, things like that that are a lot shorter type of text and written form, and then also that short form video of those reels and shorts and things like that. Now, what's wonderful about both of these forms is that you want to use both, but what you get to do is you get to take that 1 week, that one title, what agents do when they hear the term full coverage, and you can make a video about that that's long form and outline and write out the long written form and the long written text for that video. And then what we get to do is we get to repurpose that. So that long video becomes a long blog, an email, an article possibly, and then we can take pieces of that video and that written form, and then we can create smaller pieces of content for the short form. And depending on which platforms you're going to be on, you can then distribute that content that you break down in that way across so many different platforms. So once we're done with really finding content and researching and seeing what's working, then we work into the planning and deciding what the titles are and really writing out the outlines and the ideas of the video and the written content that we're going to create. Now it's time to actually create the content. That is the next part of content creating process. When you go into creating your content, that's when you're going to hit the record button. That's when you're going to edit the graphics, take the pictures, actually write out the captions and edit that written text to make sure it makes sense, the grammar's right, and you've got the hashtags or all the different things that you're going to want within each piece of that content. But again, remember, we're starting with that one long form video and one long form written content that you're going to then take and break down and repurpose for the short form. So the best thing to do when you're creating your content is to start with the long video and the long written form that then you can edit down and repurpose into the short form content. Now, there are two ways that I like to do our content creating process. And the first one is called bake and the other one is called batch. The difference between the two is going to be subtle. When you're baking content, you're going to take that one topic for the week and you're going to record the video. You're going to edit the video. You're going to schedule the video, and then you're going to publish it and distribute it across the platform. So what you're doing is really creating that recipe and baking that piece of content throughout the week. The other version is batching, and batching is all about taking a few pieces of content. So let's say you take an entire month's worth of content, you've got 4 to 5 topics, and you're going to then in 1 week do all the recording. The next week, you're going to do all the editing. The next week, you're going to do all the scheduling, right? So you are batching different parts of the creation process and doing each piece all together and then moving on to the next section. Whereas when you're baking, you're doing all the content creating process in that 1 week for that one topic. And honestly, I don't think there is a right or wrong. We've done both. I think it depends on where you are at your journey, how busy you are, how much help you might have. Maybe you're doing this on your own. Some people find baking content creation easier for them because it's small pieces and small bites and they only have to focus on one thing right now. And a lot of people also like batching because they can bust out a bunch of content in one sitting. So if you're going to sit in front of a camera and record, you might as well do 4 videos in one sitting, right? If you've got to connect a mic or a camera or make sure there's no background noise or whatever, right? You don't have to make it perfect. But if you're going to do that, you might as well do a few videos in one sitting, for example. Or if you're going to do some research for 4 different types of content or just one piece of content, you might as well do research for 4 different types of content and just sit there and bust out the things that you want to talk about with those content pieces, as opposed to maybe every Monday you're going to be doing that. And then Tuesday you'll be recording and then Wednesday you'll be editing, which is more of the baking version as opposed to the batching version. And then once you've done some research about the content you want to create that you think is going to be well received by your audience and those that come across your profiles, then you're going to work on the planning and really writing out in a calendar or in some type of content planning system what topics you're going to be talking about through those weeks, and you're going to plan that out. Then you're going to create the content, you're going to hit record, you're going to edit, you're going to do the graphics, you're going to take the pictures, you're going to write out whatever you need to write out. And then finally, it's time to distribute your content across the platforms. We like to use later.com in order for us to distribute our content automatically. We'll put it up there. We'll put in the captions. We'll put in the hashtags. We'll put in the video, or we'll put in the pictures and the graphics. And you can do stories. You can do reels. You can do posts. all of that stuff. And then we will make sure it's all planned out, whether we're batching and we can batch an entire month or more, or we're baking and we're doing week by week. We're going to go ahead and put those on later.com and get those scheduled out. So we don't have to go onto social media every single day and suddenly not know what we're doing and posting random things that don't make any sense and just don't move the needle. And so really having a distribution process and plan on how you're going to get these out to all the different platforms is very, very helpful for you to stay consistent on social media. But in order for us to do that, like I mentioned, when we were creating the content, we create the long form first, and then we edit down pieces of that to hit all the short forms that we want to hit. Now, when you're thinking about creating content, I know this might sound a little overwhelming, but there's really just 4 pieces. It's the finding, which you don't have to do as much. It's not something you have to do all the time. For example, I was able to find 52 pieces of content for the entire year in just 1 week of doing some research. So once I had that, I might have to go back and maybe do a little bit of research per topic once I get there. But for the most part, I don't do a lot of time finding or researching content because a lot of it's really in our head. And I want you to be able to trust yourself that you know what you're talking about and make it real and personable. I mean, I'm sitting here in a baseball cap and in sweats in my dining room, and you're watching this video, and it really doesn't matter how well it's edited or what type of camera I'm using, which by the way, I'm using my iPhone and I'm not using a special mic. When I'm in my office, I do have some other equipment, but I don't think that's important. I think what's important is the content that you're providing and the way that you come across the camera and be relatable. So when you're planning your content, you're really going to be doing more of the planning, writing the things out, deciding how you want to record the video, where you're going to record it. And then when you actually go to create it is when the meat and potatoes kind of come into the content planning process. So no matter what platform you want to be on, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, if you want to do email marketing or you want to create some blogs and stay consistent so you can increase your search optimization, whatever those things are, maybe you want to do all of them and you want to do reels and lives and YouTube videos, you can do that by using this process. And hopefully this has helped you realize that there's not as many steps as you think. It can be simple. You can show up consistently. You can either decide to batch your content or bake your content, whatever works for you. But I really wanted to explain what we do and what the process is so that you can show up consistently and really grow your audience and start generating some leads so that it equals revenue for you. And you have a way to have control over your marketing, your social and digital presence for your agency or your business. So I hope that this helped make more sense about how this works. And I'd love to hear from you what things you're going to be working on in the comments below. Make sure you check the description for any links. And I would love it if you would subscribe. We have videos like this that come out every single week. So let us know what you enjoyed the most and what you're going to be working on and trying this process. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you in the next video.